Hi, this is your coach JDP, and you are excellent. My channel is all about bringing coaching to underestimated people from under-resourced zip codes so that you can find entry, acceptance, belonging, success, growth, and permanence in the career of your choosing. My aim is to demystify coaching and mentoring so that you can take advantage of these tools to have success in your life and in your career. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Lori Feldman. A little bit about Lori. Lori is a International Coaching Federation credentialed coach, and she is a leadership coach. She focuses on professional development and mentorship, and she is based in the greater Chicagoland area. Dr. Feldman, is it okay if I call you Lori?
By all means, please.
Lori, thank you so much for doing this. Welcome to You Are Excellent.
JDP, thank you so much for having me. Delighted to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have known each other now for just a little over a year, a year and change now, right? And I know you as a wonderful person, and I want my viewers to get to know you. So, Lori, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Love those kind of questions. So as you mentioned, I spent more than 30 years in the higher ed space. I was a professor of marketing and a higher ed leader. And what I loved most of all, and the impact that I'm most proud of, is the impact I had on students and people who worked up for me. And people who worked with me. So this was when I retired, this was a natural bridge for me to continue to impact people and organizations in this way, right? I thrive on motivating and growing and nurturing effective leaders, whether they're starting out in their career or they're very senior. That's what gives me excitement.
You know, you said something interesting. You spent 30 years in higher ed. What was your subject matter?
I was a professor of marketing and I taught everything from principles of marketing, which I love to introduce people to my passion, to digital marketing, which is also the cutting edge kind of part of my field, to marketing strategy, which is the big picture. And I taught everything from introductory sophomore level students all the way up to executive education students, people with lots of years of experience.
When we started the conversation off camera before I hit the record button, you pointed out something really interesting. I wonder if you could share that with our viewers. You said something about the demographic and ethnographic and so economic makeup of your students generally. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I love this question and thank you for asking that. It was my joy to teach at Purdue University Northwest, which is a regional campus in the Purdue system. It's up in the northwest corner of Indiana, and it serves primarily first generation college students. These are people whose parents made great livings in the steel mills in the day when you didn't need an education to do that. But things have changed pretty dramatically. So many of my students that didn't come from families who had higher ed experience. They didn't come from money. They were wonderful people, but they were first generation. Many were Latinas, many were African American. It's the most diverse campus in the state of Indiana. I had many students who, either for whatever reason didn't come back to college until later on in their adult lives. I can think of two women in particular who were rock stars when they came back, rock stars, but life circumstances didn't permit them to go at the time. I had a boss who once said, it's easy to teach at Harvard. What we're doing at Purdue Northwest is really important.
So, Lori, and thank you for your service, because 30 years in the education trenches in higher ed at Purdue Northwest, thank you. And what led you to become an educator? Because that's an interesting journey that you've had.
It is. I was lucky enough to have people who were mentors to me. I went to the University of Michigan, spent a summer in Ann Arbor working for a marketing professor, as it turned out. Long story, ended up being a fluke. And one day he invited me to the faculty lounge and said, Lori, I think you should apply to the PhD program. And I was like, who are you talking to?
Me? What?
That was exactly the reaction. And he ended up being my thesis advisor and really was remarkably supportive. And I was not a business school major as an undergraduate. I was a political science major. But what I liked was understanding voter behavior and why and how people vote. And that translates really well into marketing. Same
So
psychology.
you started out, that's interesting. You started out in as poli
Political science.
sci,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And now you're in the business, and then you had a mentor who obviously, and we're going to talk about this a little later on, impacted or nudged you in your career trajectory. And mentors, for those of you who don't know or don't have one, mentors can have a serious positive impact on your lives.
Yes, sir.
Did you always know you wanted to be an educator, or does this happen? How did that even happen?
So my mom was a professor, retired. My mom was a professor, so this was not completely foreign to me, but it was not my intention. When I went to college, it was not my intention in the least. I thought I was going to go out to work, and then I would go back and get an MBA, and I would go do other things. And as it turns out, Jim Taylor, my mentor, grabbed a hold of my elbow and said, "No, I think you ought to go this way." Look, I knew this from my mom. Um, I knew that when I was a little girl, I played teacher, so I was one of those. So it wasn't completely foreign idea. I just wouldn't have thought about it on my own. And I think that's what a good mentor can do, is see things in you that you don't necessarily see. And he saw the research I was doing. He didn't see the teaching part. He saw the research part.
You talked about your mentor. You've talked about how this impacted your career. Looking back on it, right? Because we're talking about that nexus point at the beginning. Now we followed the arc of your and the trajectory of your career. Now, from here, 2024, looking back, how would you reflect on that experience?
Of being steered in a direction by a mentor?
Sure,
Best
or
thing
the
that ever.
impact that the mentors had, or
Oh,
you know,
best thing that Jim Taylor is the best thing that ever happened to me. I still keep in touch with him. I'm friends with his wife. I can never pay him back for what he did, but I can only pay it forward. And I have worked very hard to do that. But he's not the only mentor I had in my career. I had a mentor by the name of Dan Dunn, who was very instrumental in the first part of my leadership career. His advice to me was always, be detached, Lori, be detached. It's just business, be detached. And it was really good for somebody like me, right? And then I had, at the end of my career, one of my uh, outstanding mentor, the best boss I ever had in my career was the provost at Purdue Northwest. His name was Ralph Mueller. And I mean, he believed in me in the way that, of all these people, that nobody else did. He completely trusted me. He gave me every opportunity and all the resources I needed. And, I was his equal in every respect other than title and reporting. And so he was probably more than a mentor. Best years of my working life.
we're talking about this higher ed environment, and we talked obviously about your career, and you spent 30 years in this space in higher ed. At any point during your career, regardless of mentor, this is Lori the individual now, walk into a room where, like you said, you were invited to the faculty lounge, and normally a lot of insecurities creep up and a lot of things happen, and particularly they're kind of all bundled in what we like to call imposter syndrome. At that point, did you feel any of that, or what were you feeling when you stepped into this new environment called the faculty lounge?
I don't think I felt it then. But when I did feel imposter syndrome was in those very first years of teaching. I was very young. I was 27, right? I was very young. And I looked young. And I remember thinking to myself, fake it till you make it. You just got to stay one lesson ahead of the students. And there was and I didn't have my own stories to tell because in part I was so young. So I over prepared, right? And I this was the early 90s and I dressed in a way that, was intended to convey that I meant business. And that took a long time until I felt more authentically myself. It was one foot in front of the other, and students didn't know I was one lesson ahead of them, but I knew. But I'm glad they didn't know.
Fake it till you make it. But in that process, what were the strategies that, right? One lesson ahead is a strategy that you kind of had, right? And so what was your internal self-talk during that time?
My internal self-talk. I wanted people to see me as a serious person, right? I wanted them to see me not as a very young woman. I had a PhD. I wanted them to respect that. It was really important to me. It became less important later on as I got older and more experienced. So for me, it was about, I have to, for myself, prove that I belong here. And the way that I prove that I belong here is by over preparing, making sure in my mind that whatever I'm delivering is the best possible lesson, research paper, whatever it was. So I worked really hard because I was afraid of not showing up the way that I wanted.
So what you did, if I can paraphrase here, what you did is you did the work. You went into that environment prepared, right? As in a previous episode, the mentor was speaking about being prepared, walking to the room, being prepared. And I responded, better to be prepared and not need it than need to be prepared and not have it.
Amen.
Mm.
Amen. Yeah, there was never a time that I was too scared to show up unprepared.
Wow. Wow. Fear is a powerful motivator for real. So, Lori,
Yes.
when we talk about being in that room and being afraid and fear being that great motivator, there's intrinsic voices in inside of our heads that are talking to us. One of those voices is worthiness. Am I worthy to be in the room? And you said I was a young woman. I looked young, but I kind of tried to step up the game because I dressed the part, I acted the part, I wanted to be respected, I acted in a certain way. Underneath all of that, you earned the right to be in front of that class. Did you feel worthy to be in front of that class? Did you have any of that sense of self-worth? And can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I had the sense of self-worth around the classroom where the concept that you're talking about came up in a very real, smack you in the face way was the first time I took on a leadership role with people reporting directly to me. I was asked to be a department chair. I had faculty who were older than me reporting to me, more senior than me reporting to me. And I remember saying to our chancellor at the time, this is such a steep learning curve. Oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. And he was another mentor who said, of course you can do this. We believe in you. Of course you can. What are you talking about? Of course you can. That's why we picked you. And so having his voice in the back of my head saying, knowing this was going to be a steep learning curve, and it was, having his voice inside my head helped me to believe that I belong there. But that was a tougher transition for me.
So we talk about mentoring. Mentoring is I got you. I believe in you. That's extrinsic. But when we talk about intrinsic, what's going on up here, the coach affects that aspect, right? To help you tap into your wonderful superpowers. Did you receive coaching at that time, or were those mentors like wearing multiple hats, mentor/coach, and how did they help you from a coaching perspective?
Oh, good question. Throughout my career, I would say it was more mentoring than direct coaching per se. But there were people, such as the individual I told you about earlier, who said, detach. Don't get so emotionally connected to things. That's just my way of being, I'm still trying to work on that. But I would sit in his office maybe weekly, right? And he would help me get to the point where I was believing that. it wasn't just his voice, that I was starting to believe. And wasn't just hearing going, yeah, detach it. I don't know how to do that. He helped me over weeks and months to figure out what that meant for me. And it doesn't mean not caring. And it took me a long time to sort of get to that point, because people would say, we just don't care so much. And I'm like, well, I can't do that. But eventually what I got to is I can care. I just can't let it knock me off course for several days. And that was my own leadership development, about being detached enough to realize it's just business. You have things you need to accomplish, and you're a person in a role. So because you're a person in a role, some people aren't going to like that. It's not personal.
And what you're talking about here is the going in corporate terms, going from individual contributor to people leader, right? To
Yep,
leadership, and what that transition for you looked like.
that's right.
And
That's
in an environment, did you feel comfortable in that? Obviously, we're talking about academia, but you were obviously comfortable in the environment. You were familiar with your surroundings and what was happening. Now it's okay. I got that part locked down. Now it's all about, ooh, how do I evolve and grow into this new role?
So, there's something interesting. You asked about whether I got coaching at that time. And so maybe the coaching part of me was, noodling in the back of my brain, because I knew that there was a lot that I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I reached out to another department chair who had been doing this work for 20 years. She had been there a long time, and we formed a group of department chairs to support each other. And then we made a proposal to the senior leadership to say, maybe we should get some coaching for these chairs so they can be
Interesting.
excellent. And I
Wow.
brought in a friend of mine. I had been working as the inaugural director of our executive MBA program. And at a conference, I met Barbara Singer, who had been doing coaching and leadership development for years. And I brought her in, and we actually did a 3-year program, a post coaching. And it was pretty fantastic. And this is what I mean about the kind of impact that I left on the institution, right? It's about the impact and the change
Nice.
that I had on people. And I'm still pretty proud of that.
That's an amazing story. Lori, we're here now you said you're retired. How long you been retired?
2 years. In
2
2 years in
years
July.
already?
Amazing.
So you have this whole experience in higher ed. Here we are at 2 years after that, and now what has motivated you to become a coach?
Great question. I wanted to continue the things that I loved best in the higher ed space. And what I told you I loved best was helping people grow, right? Whether that was in the classroom, whether that was people that worked for me, whether that was helping people with their career development and LinkedIn from my marketing background. This is the work. It always was the work that drove me and made me smile at the end of the day. And so for me, this was a very natural transition. And when I got to our coach training program, it took me a while to figure out that I wanted to do that. And when I got there, these are my people. This is
I
where
was there.
you were there, and we met on day one, and we're
Day
fast
one.
friends. So for me, this was a natural transition. It's about wanting to help people gain confidence to show up as their best possible selves.
When we talk about our particular cohort, right, which is, again, we met January 23.
We did.
There were, I think, 23, 24 of us in the room. We entered as strangers and left as friends.
We did.
Every single one has their own point of view, their own experience, their own uniqueness, resilience, and excellence. Plug to URXcellent. And everybody has their own method of coaching, their style. Can you talk to us a little bit about your style as a coach?
So let me start this way. The imagery for my business is a butterfly. Right? My company is called Papillon. Papillon is French for butterfly.
I'll post the link up here on the screen.
And for me, this is symbolic of the way that I look at the work that I do, right? Butterflies come from caterpillars, go into a chrysalis, gooey mess, and emerge something beautiful, something powerful. um, something completely different, but retaining parts of themselves. So for me, it's helping someone understand what their strengths are, who they are, what they bring to the table. I had a client say to me, "You helped me really understand confident humility. And you helped me really understand that I could give to my employees and protect myself. I could tell my story, my real story, and not make something up because I thought that's what people wanted to hear." So it's those kinds of things that are important to me. So if it's all right with you, I can briefly talk about sort of process. Is that all right?
Oh, please, Mikasa Sukasa.
Mikasa Sukasa, excellent. So my process is to get to know people first. It's without trust, we have nothing. You have to be able to trust me that I'm going to hear you and listen to you, and I'm going to be there for you. And I remember actually on the first day of our coaching program, I think Annalise said that the biggest gift you can give someone is to truly listen to them, for them to be truly heard.
And,
And
and
so
and just for the viewers, Annalise was one of our instructors, a super duper human being.
super duper. I agree. And so her words are still with me a year plus later. And so that first meeting is always about trust building, right? Trust and chemistry. Is this
Trust and
right?
chemistry. What happens? And that's interesting. There's so many things I want to talk about, but trust and chemistry, write that down. Because if you're engaging with a coach and you don't have chemistry, it's going to be hard to find the trust. And that's going to tell you whether this particular coach is right for you, which brings me back to my earlier statement, which is there's a coach out there for everybody. And so when you sit down and do that introductory meeting with that coach, ask the questions because the coach is dedicated to you, for you. And if you feel that this person isn't going to work out for you, that's okay.
It's
That's all I
not,
got to say about
it's
that.
not personal.
It's
To go
Yeah,
back to
it's
my
not
mentor,
personal. It's just
it's the
business.
business.
So, hey, Lori, you talked about, and you were just on the cusp of talking about it, and I really wanted to don't want to shy away from it. We talk about values and what you value, right? You value the helping people evolve, right, from caterpillars to a chrysalis. I call it a cocoon. That's just me.
Fancy
I'm not a
words.
scientist. And
Yeah.
into a beautiful butterfly. I just think of monarch butterflies, which are
See the
very common
butterfly back
here.
there?
Yeah, there it is. So, how important are a person knowing their values and the impact that values have on our decision making?
I love this question. And I'm going to address it with you, maybe give you a couple of examples. When there is a mismatch between somebody's values and the work environment they are in, no matter how, and that can be for a lot of reasons, no matter how hard you work, oftentimes we feel uncomfortable, we feel depressed, we feel exhausted because we're working in an environment that doesn't click with our own values. And sometimes we have to do that because we have to bring home a paycheck. Let's be honest, right? But if we have a choice and we can work in an environment that fits our values, we work harder, we're happier, we feel safer, more psychological safety is created. I have another client who had been working for a company for a long time, I think 17 or 18 years, and the company changed. Right? The company changed the way they did business, the way they treated employees, and the way that they conducted business. And it was a mismatch with the way that this client preferred to engage with their own clients. They were a salesperson, but with the way they preferred to engage with their salesperson. But from a value perspective, this client also didn't see their own intrinsic value. They didn't see it. And so they were drinking from whatever cup was offered to them, but they were deeply unhappy. And through our work together, this person eventually left that company, took a humongous leap, left the company, started their own business, and achieved their revenue goals for this year at the end of this, by the end of this month, in 3 months. They had it in them. They had it in them. They were being held down by the mismatch between their values and the company's values, and they're not believing in their own value.
Yes, I can.
Yes, I can.
I just
Easy
need to
put it.
believe it. Yes, I can. I just need to believe it.
I just need, and they did. In the end, they were courageous enough, because I think engaging in coaching takes a real act of courage to be vulnerable. They were courageous enough to take that step. It was scary
Lori,
as heck.
you talked about this particular client that you had and their journey and their leap of faith in themselves, not external, but this is all coming from within, finding that power, finding that superpower from within to bet on yourself and take that chance.
It's remarkable.
So powerful.
I mean, I didn't want to quite, have the most gigantic grin with the client, but trust me, I had a gigantic grin because, how proud, and the pride needs to come from the client, right? But dang, was I proud of them too.
Nice.
It was a leap of faith. And it was about them. It's not what I did for them. It was about what they did for themselves.
Oh my God, I want to talk about that a little bit. Talk to me about that relationship and that stewardship that the coach has for their client. You just said that they did it themselves and you were so proud and excited for them. But in the end, it was the client's doing. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's one of the things I believe the most. And, it's the client's journey. And it's very different from my role in higher ed, right? I had things I wanted to accomplish. Students needed to get this and this done. But this work is about what the client wants and what is meaningful to the client. So it's not up to me to judge the progress we're making. So the client and I will have goal setting, North Star meetings, right? About what is it you want to do, and we'll check back in. But it's their journey. And sometimes we go off track, and sometimes we get back on track, and sometimes we decide that North Star, it wasn't the right North Star. But it's their journey, and it's much like learning tennis or any other sport. You don't get the muscle memory and you don't get better until you do the work yourself, until you believe it yourself.
It's like goal setting, if you set the goal to get a 6-pack, and I have a 1-pack. But if you set a goal to get a 6-pack and you do, say, 20 sit-ups a day for a week, and you look and say, I don't have a 6-pack. That's it. I'm done. The goal setting is so important, right? Because that's the long term. That's the strategic thing. You said the North Star. What is the importance of goal setting from a coach's point of view?
It keeps us focused, right?
Mhm.
It keeps us focused, and it allows me to say to the client, they might bring something to me on a particular day, which is fine. It's important to them. And I try to bring it if they're paying me, right? They want my expertise. And I try to make sure that they're getting value. Hello, I'm the marketer. What can I tell you? That they're getting value from their perception. So are we working towards that goal? Even in an hour time together, are we making progress towards this? What are you taking away from this? Right? How can we stay on track with what you came to me to do? This is not therapy. This is different than therapy. Therapy has a unique and important role. This is forward-looking. This is about setting goals. It's about achieving what you want to achieve, addressing situations that you want to address. So therapy is important. Those are all important. This is a different kind of support network.
So when we talk about goals and goal setting, and you talk about the coach, right, being sort of like a passenger on the client's bus, the client's driving, and woo, this is great, and I think I'm going to take this road, and the coach's job is to question, why are you going to take that road? What is it that you see attractive about that road? What's important to you about that road? Right, that's the coach. The coach has passenger on the bus. clients driving. What about the other half of goal setting, which is accountability? Who is holding who accountable?
Oh, great question. So let me quickly touch on you started to talk, you started to raise some powerful questions, and that's a really important part of the coaching process. Really about me finding the right questions to help you get to the answers, right? My role as coach is to ask those powerful questions to help my clients get to the answers themselves. But you're right. It is also about accountability, right? And we all work better to deadlines, right? And to having someone say, what did you do? We all do. It's human nature. So at the close of sessions, there's often what are we going to do with what you learned today? First of all, there's what did you learn today? What are you taking away? What are you going to do with this? So the client that I talked to you about earlier who said, I learned how to be there for my employees, but create space for me and not be on email 24/7. She committed to having a different kind of conversation with the people that work for her, telling them that I'm here for you, I'll support you, and drawing some boundaries. And she tried it. And the next time we came back together, I asked her, so how did it go? One of those powerful questions, right? What did you think? And we talked about that. And she tweaked it a little more. And it became her way of doing it, not mine. She had to find a way to do this for herself. So I'm all about accountability. And if, that depends on the way the client wants that. If the client feels comfortable, saying, hey, can I text you and let you know how that went? Great. Text me. Let me know how that went between sessions. If you want to email me, fine. If you want to wait till the next time we meet, that's fine. That's up to you. I want to help you move forward, and I want to help you achieve those goals.
Lori, I have a question. How are you doing?
I love this. I love talking to you. This is so much fun for me.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
In each one of these interviews, my objective is to have my audience get to know a coach. And how I do that is by asking questions in the form of a questionnaire, which the questionnaire will uncover a little bit more about who you are. So, Lori, are
Okay.
you ready to take the Get to Know a Coach questionnaire?
Ready, willing, and able.
Okay. First question, favorite sport?
Favorite sport? That's actually hard for me. College football.
College football. Okay, there it is, folks.
Go Blue.
Second question, cats or dogs?
Oh, cats. I've had both, but I currently have 4 cats. Yes, I am a bit of a crazy cat lady. So at this point, I have to say cats.
Next question, mountains or ocean?
Ocean.
Ocean.
I
Okay.
I get a lot of peace being by water. Yeah. I also get a little seasick. I don't have an iron stomach, so I would prefer to be on land.
On land. Okay. Now, this next question has caused some confusion with some past guests, and so it's a general question about art.
Okay.
Favorite artist, regardless of genre, medium, etc. Favorite artist.
I'm also a bit of a feminist, so I'm going to say Frida Kahlo.
Oh, okay. Okay. Muy bueno.
She of the unibrow, but she
Yep.
also got she was referred to often as the spouse of another famous artist, and she was an outstanding artist in her own right. So Frida Kahlo.
Okay, Frida. And finally, I know you, and we're going to talk about this in a minute. Favorite food or cuisine?
Oh my God. Okay. I am a huge foodie. You found out this about me from the day we met. I'm going to answer it this way. I'm currently in my sourdough phase. And if I don't say so myself, I'm darn good. They're coming out beautiful. So I make a beautiful plain one and a beautiful double chocolate one.
Oh man. So yeah, that's why God invented FedEx. I'm expecting a loaf any day now.
Absolutely.
Lori has talk to me about a little bit about Aunt Lori Bakes.
Oh, yes. So one of my side passions and side hobbies, so I'm a marketer, as you know, and I like to do those kinds of things. And one of my nieces one day suggested, you need an Instagram page. You need to share this amazing stuff that you make. So I created 2 Instagram pages actually, one at Aunt Lori Bakes and one
Mm.
at Aunt Lori Cooks.
Ooh,
And ooh, there's 2, and I use it to share what I make. And it's also part of the teacher in me. You can do this too. You
uh,
can do this too. I'm
you,
happy to teach you. It looks great and it looks beautiful. I mean, I've been cooking since I was 12, so I've been at it for a long time, but you can do this too. I've
yeah,
taught my 2 sons, 27 and 30, are outstanding cooks.
wow,
It was
that's
a
awesome.
personal goal. So yeah, you can do this too. So it's a share and an educate kind of passion.
And I will include all of Lori's socials in the description. So if you're not, I've been on your Aunt Lori Bakes, and some of the stuff that you made this cake with coconut. Was it a pie? I can't remember. Oh
That
my
okay.
God, that looked
No,
amazing.
that is a coconut cream pie and
Yes.
a recipe from my favorite place on earth, which is Zingerman's in Ann Arbor. It's their cookbook. Coconut cream pie. Oh my God, was that good?
It was awesome. So, Lori, thank you so much for being here talking to us. I know my viewers are definitely getting a lot out of this, and I hope they're loving you as much as I do. Do you have any parting words for my viewers?
I do. And I think I'll say it this way. You know, we sometimes think that successful people have the Midas touch and were born that way and somehow they just walk through life and nothing touches them. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. Right? We all benefit from having someone or someone's by our side to help us. You don't have to do it yourself. Right?
Awesome.
Coaching can be a short-term or a long-term engagement. Mentoring can be a short or long-term engagement. Ask for help. This is what I always told my students. My hand is reached out to you. I'm happy to help. John's happy to help. We're all here for you. Ask for help. We all need help.
Awesome. Lori, thank you so much for that. Guys, we've been talking to Dr. Lori Feldman, my friend, my coach, and all around superhuman being. I will be posting Lori's information in the description. So if you're interested, please reach out. Lori is always accessible. This is JDP and Dr. Lori Feldman, and you are excellent. Take care. See you in the next.